Cause I don't know what the heartburn is on that.
Please.
Because it's not like we're gonna be,
Yeah,
the way
okay.
the ordinance
Quite a bit, yeah.
Okay.
All right, it's now 6:30. We'll be calling the Public Works and Economics Committee event meeting to order. Members, Mr. Rippeth, Mrs. Ramos, and myself, and alternate Mr. Simlick. We have 3 items to discuss tonight, and this is basically what the service director was telling us last meeting, that it was just some kind of house cleaning, last-minute stuff that got thrown on there, so, but resolution 2 has to do with the South Side Park. Resolution 3 has to do with the Waterworks Trail, and Resolution 4 is water system grants. I'm gonna turn that over to Service Director now, and he can give us an explanation on the 3.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Chairman. Did everybody receive let's just go over in order, let's go for number 2. Did everybody receive the preliminary project cost estimate today? That, the paper that should have the $2,268,704 there in that paperwork.
John Lee sent that out, right?
Yeah, John Lee had sent it out. I want to just go over that first, because the Land and Water, the Hard Department Natural Resource one is a 80-20 match on this one. So, when you look at that number, the $2,268,000, we would have $454,000 of that. So, if you look down at the price sheet, as everybody knows, we have the $300,000 worth of grants, we have the $250,000 to the state budget, and then we have $50,000 from the Kimball Foundation. And if you look at that breakdown there, the $94,800 would be for water service and sewer force main extensions. So that would be out of their funding. So it makes a shortfall of $58,000 is what, and naturally, as we always do, we'll continue to even try to make up that 58,000. For this one also, I believe, Ohio Area Canal Coalition wouldn't be opposed to helping out with that. So again, we'll continue to go down the road of trying to make that even less burdensome on everybody, especially the general fund, as we know, is tight. But again, that's a total, that's a,
But basically, you're saying over $2 million worth of project, and it boils down to less than 50,000 or
58,000.
58,000.
and I'll just add on, when we did phase 1, it was a larger project. It was almost $4 million when we did phase 1. And out of that, we had 132,000 in that one. So again, we'll go out and by the time we get ready to do this project, we'll go out to the state biannual budget again and see if they can pitch in some more, like we have before. We've been fortunate to get it twice. They tend to fund, these types of projects, as they've proven in the past they have. We've got it twice for down there, so we'll go out for it again if we have to a third time with some help from our state reps. Each time they've helped us, quite a bit.
All right, so we'll go ahead, I'll go ahead and see if we don't do anything on resolution.
Yeah, has anybody got any questions on that?
Any questions on resolution 2? Anybody from the audience or administration or anybody? Any action to taken on resolution 2? Proposed resolution 2, 2025?
Do you need that quickly?
Yes, as I stated at the last council meeting, the mayor and I, just the week before that, the Friday before that meeting, had went and met with Aaron Wright with a bunch of different municipalities. And that's why I wanted to explain to you that at that time, that we wasn't coming to you at the 11th hour and saying, hey, I gotta have this passed. It was something that said, hey, there's still room to try to get some of these grants in. Meet with us, give us your top 3, and let's go. So, yes, I do, because it's, a matter of fact, you may need to sign it, because I may need to get it to them before the mayor gets back. But anyways, but yes,
Okay, that's what I
yes,
needed to know.
yes,
And this is the south side.
Yes.
yes,
South Side Park.
yep, yep.
Okay. I would move that we put that on the agenda tonight and ask for it to be passed in the first reading.
All right, do I have a second?
Second,
Second, Mrs. Ramos, we'll take a vote. Mr. Rippeth?
Aye.
Mrs. Ramos?
yes.
And I'll vote yes also. All right, next issue on the board is proposed resolution 3, 2025. I'll turn this over to the service director also.
Okay, and then, on this one here, we haven't went out to try to get a second grant on this yet. But what this is, it's the 565, 520, so that gives us 114 due. But for this particular project right here, the Ohio Erie Canal Coalition has given us $25,000 to do more engineering on this project. What this project is, it'll, Ohio Erie Canal Trail, as we all know, is the southern terminus is right there at the old Riverview Welding Building. So they're gonna try to tie it in with that and have a walking trail around all the fields down there, is what that is, over a 1 mile walking track, to try to enhance that, not only for the, the parents or whatever that go down there, they have a walking trail to go around that, but also to add on to the Ohio Erie Canal Coalition. So out of the $114,000, without saying I guarantee it from Dan Rice and the guys there, we should be able to get some more off them, because like I said, they're giving us $25,000 this year to continue to do some engineering on this project. So again, right now it's $114,000. And again, we'll still go out there and try to, there's other ones out there that we can get. You got the ODNR, we got the, there's different ones that, after talking with Aaron, as we all know, there's different ones out there and we're not afraid to ask. So we'll continue to do that. And don't ever think that we're getting in a scary position, because if somebody that comes to it, get the grant, we just say no. It's not, you're not
If the
obligated to it.
money's not there, then we.
Yeah, you just can't do the project. I mean, so it's not something like, hey, once you say, let's send in the grant, all it's coming back for is a, yes, let's go try to apply for it. If the money's not there in 2-3 years, just don't do the project. Because that's what I'm gonna explain to you in the next grant. So, it had happened to somebody, but
Yeah. And these are not FY $25.
no.
We're looking
No.
down the road.
Yeah, it's down the road, correct.
Okay, any questions on resolution 3? Not seeing none, any action to be taken
I
on?
assume again that it's.
Yeah, these are the ones.
These are all three.
Yes, all three.
I would move that we put it on tonight's agenda for suspension of the rules and immediate passage.
Thank you, yes, and a second? I'll second that, and we'll take a vote. Mr. Ritter?
Yes.
Mrs. Ramos?
No.
And I'll vote yes, that passes 2-1. On proposed resolution 3, it'll be on tonight's agenda.
Resolution 4.
Now we're gonna move on to resolution 4, and again, I'll turn this over to the safety director to give us some more
Are you
information.
getting bored of this meeting?
Yeah, right. On this one here is, if we remember early, well, actually, it was probably midsummer. What this is Omega, Ohio Middle Government Association, had graded out the top 8 projects in their region. We was number 9. That's what I'm gonna tell you about these grants. So, long story short, the $250,000 was supposed to go to a village north of us, without saying the name of it. But then that put us in the top 8. So, this does now is it moves, they're okay with it, now they gotta take it to the federal level and say, hey, this is one that we graded, if you guys graded the same way, let's award these guys $250,000. So the reason I'm bringing up the fact that just because you got this grant don't mean you gotta spend it. The village north of us had been awarded this, that was gonna go for the thing, and they could not afford to come up with the other match part. As you see, our match is, I think it was 300 and something thousand there, if I remember right, well, 340. So, but we're good for it either way, but I'm sure it's gonna get funded for the $250,000. But again, just asking is all we're doing, but this project we're doing regardless of if you get it or not.
And service director, our share would come out of one of the enterprise funds
Yes,
anyway, so it
yes.
wouldn't be coming out of the.
No master capital or any general fund money at all, no.
And what is
And
that?
it's already budgeted,
Yes.
yep. And this is out of the Governor's Office of Appalachia.
Right.
And
Yeah.
as much work as we can do on water lines, the better
Yeah.
off we're gonna be.
Right.
Yes.
And what this is if everybody remembers right, this is the one that's going down 21st Street. We're born underneath Route 250. We pop up there at what else, graphic packaging, but Pilcher's place, so I can think, Freeport Press.
Freeport Press.
Yeah, so anyways, we're born underneath that line, and I think I remember saying before, the little bit that I was in the water department for 4 years, I think I was down there every year for the 4 years. It's just, the line is horrendous, so that'll be bored, it'll all be the HDPE pipe, and it'll be all one seamless thing, none of the seals, none of the gaskets, just like we did basically on the other part of 250 we had to do about 4 or 5 years ago.
Who all's fed by that, Ron?
Everything down in the industrial park, so,
You're
matter
talking.
of, yeah, so we
Battle,
got,
You're talking.
yeah, we got-
ODOT, you're talking Freeport Press.
yeah, you're talking Cooper Standard, you got the
yeah,
jail.
Cooper Standard.
So, as a matter of fact, they wrote letters of support for this.
Yeah.
Because of the fact of the redundancy that they get from feeding from that way and the fact it's out.
A
Not
lot of
only
our
is-
big employers.
Is
Yeah.
that, that's where I was headed, yeah, there's a lot of big employers that are serviced by that line.
Yeah, and Sheriff Campbell was supposed to write one too. I talked with him Friday. So, but all of them, the other ones, we even had, Mr. Butler, because Muskegon Watershed's still down in that one piece for now.
Yeah.
So he's supposed to get us a letter too. And, Dave Pilcher Jr. got a letter too, so, we should have it covered. They only want 3 or 4, but we'll probably end up with 5 or 6
Yeah.
to send out along with this application. Yeah.
All right, any questions on proposed resolution 4, 2025? Seeing none, is there any action to be taken on proposed resolution 4, 2025?
I move that we put proposed resolution for 2025 on the agenda for tonight and pass on first reading, right? You need that right
Yeah.
away.
Yes, yep.
Thank you, Mrs. Ramos.
I would second that.
Second, Mr. Rippeth, and we'll take a vote. Mrs. Ramos?
Yes.
Mr. Rippeth?
Yes.
And I'll vote yes also, it passes unanimously. Okay, anything else to come before the committee?
Yes, you have one more. I signed the resolution five.
That 5 is mine then?
Okay.
Yes.
Okay, all right, well, let's
It's
see.
about issue 2.
Yes.
If you look on 3-6,
I got it. Yeah, and, okay, we got one more thing to come before committee is proposed resolution 5, 2025. It's a resolution by council of the city of New Philadelphia to support the state issue 2, which is a renewal of the state capital improvement program. May 6, 2025, statewide ballot and declared an emergency. Ronnie, you don't really have, Marvin, can you speak on this one? I mean, other than, just to kind of give an overlay of what the resolution 2.
It's pretty self-explanatory, it's on the ballot, it's something that benefits the city, and that's why we'd like. to
Where we get more
pass.
money back,
That's
basically.
right.
Yes.
So the city gets more money, so. From the state,
And we're essentially resolving that we would like that.
yeah.
Right.
Well, and given that they cut local government funds a few years ago.
Yeah, that's
yes,
basic, yeah.
Yes.
Right,
We need to hold on to as much money as we can get.
yeah.
How quickly does the mayor need this? Do you know?
He did not specify, he just asked that it go to
Well,
committee.
it's, seeing that it's a May issue, that we probably want to get it done as quickly as possible too.
Okay.
Any action to be taken on proposal,
Can I-
or, wait, I'm sorry, Mrs. Ramos, go ahead. Sorry.
On this, I'm taking the same stance I took 10 years ago, so I'm very consistent. I don't think, as a city council, that we should be telling voters how to vote, and that's what this does. Because you can read for yourself, like the law director said, it's self-explanatory on the ballot. So that's my position on this.
Any other questions or comments? about-
Could we not move this one on first reading, so because I actually didn't do any
Right.
I
research on
think that
this.
wouldn't be an
That'd
issue,
be
we could
all
pass it on second or third. or-
Yes.
Yeah.
I didn't do any research on it, and that's my fault.
Okay.
So, yeah, that would be all right.
Well, at least we could get it and put it on the back, on the
Yeah.
agenda then for first reading.
I would go ahead and move that we do that, just put it on for a first reading tonight so that this body can take some time to explore it
Yeah.
and decide how they want to vote on it
And
as a
I'll-
council.
I'll second that.
Thank you.
And, any, a vote, Mr. Rippeth?
Yes.
I'll vote yes, and Mrs. Ramos?
No.
Okay, at 2-1. Proposed resolution 5 to be put on tonight's agenda. Okay, anything else to come before committee? Seeing none, a motion for adjournment?
So moved.
Thank you, Mr. Rippeth, at 6:45.
I would like to call this meeting of the New Philadelphia Finance Committee to order. I see that our committee members, Mr. Lanzer, Mr. Crimble, myself are here, our alternate, Mrs. Ramos as well, and it's good to see we've got the entire council here tonight to participate in this meeting. First order of business would be ordinance 5/2025. Just by way of background, this is basically the allocation of our income tax receipts. And essentially, we are saying we're gonna renew the allocations as they were last year with no changes. But I would ask the law director, we have to pass this every year, correct?
That's correct.
That's
Even though
correct.
we're not changing it, same as with the ambulance.
Even though we're not changing it, we are going to pass it as is. Any questions regarding why we're keeping things the same? I know last year, we moved a percentage from the cemetery fund toward the general fund. We'd like to work toward moving some of that back. But this year, we've been kind of advised by Ray and Associates, it's easier to leave it this way and just transfer money out of the general fund back to the cemetery. So working on their recommendations, that's why we've kept this ordinance the same. I'd open the floor to the committee for any kind of questions you have of myself or the auditor.
Mr. Chairman, well, go ahead.
Good, Chair.
So we would only transfer it out of the general fund if needed,
Yeah.
absolutely needed. Somebody
Mr.
else had a
McRae.
question?
Ron did.
Do I have a bad copy? Because it still says 7% no.
Yeah, you've got the old one.
Okay,
Here's.
well, that's fine. I just want to make sure you guys
Yeah.
didn't pass something, okay?
Nope, it's
I just
essentially,
didn't want you to pass something that,
it's essentially the same as last year. We
Okay.
sent out a revised copy here at the end of the year.
All right,
Or at the
sorry.
end of the, earlier today.
all right, sorry.
Yeah, yeah. The law director and I texted
Coordinated.
numerous times this weekend to
Yes,
get
we
that, to get that clarified,
No
so.
worries, I just worried about doing that. for you.
Doing it wrong, yeah, we
Yeah.
didn't want to pass the wrong numbers.
All right.
And then have to fix it. So, any other questions on this issue? Hearing none, I would entertain a motion if we wish to move on this.
I'll make a motion, we add to the agenda tonight ordinance number 5/2025 for first reading.
Do we need it immediately, or are you okay with it that it's before council to be, that you can use those numbers for your budgeting?
I think I can, I don't think we need it tonight.
Very good.
I'll second that.
All right. Mr. Kreinbell, are you in favor?
Yes.
Ms.
I'll
Bonzo?
vote yes also.
As am I. So we will add ordinance number 5/2025 to tonight's agenda for its first reading, and let it go through council that way. Second on my agenda is resolution number 7/2025, a resolution by the city of New Philadelphia, the council of the city of New Philadelphia. This is essentially authorizing to get rid of, or I'm sorry, to enter into a loan agreement with First Federal Community Bank to purchase the new ambulance. This is the ambulance that we passed some time ago. It is now gonna be ready to go, so we've got to finance that. I believe, is the chief here tonight? He is
He
not.
said he was coming.
Yeah. Chief is not here, but I believe we have budgeted out of the ambulance fund for these payments. So as much as several of us on this committee, I know, hate financing equipment, we are still in a position where we need to do that to be able to get this new ambulance and retire an old one that's going out of service. Yes, sir.
I spoke to the chief on this when I crafted the legislation.
Okay.
I thought it was important for council to know that that ambulance is ready to be picked up.
Yes.
When this is passed, it's picked up, it's
Yeah.
ready to go. And we've been waiting on it since 2023.
Yeah.
So,
And he is recommending to do the 7-year option, I believe, too, right, Steve?
I believe so,
He wants
yes.
to do the 7 years,
Yes.
yeah.
Yeah.
And as I've stated in here, I hate financing them too, but I know we're not in a place, as of now, to do
Yeah.
it otherwise. And this ambulance, wasn't it 2022 it was ordered?
I believe the
Um,
ordinance was passed in 22.
Yeah, so, and I know we'll continue to work to try to find ways to potentially either do lower loan terms
Right.
or pay cash in the future, but I know right now that's not an option.
Not an option, and it is
And
budgeted
it-
out of the ambulance fund to do this.
And I believe this is a full ambulance, it's a chassis and box.
That's what I was going to
as
say.
well.
This is the entire unit, and that box can then be later transferred to another chassis, which saves us down the road.
And this is the last one that we have to do that with. After that, we'll be able to just get the chassis and put the boxes on.
Yeah,
And I believe the boxes, he said, had a useful life like 30 years, if I remember correctly.
that's,
And the chassis.
that's
were
what I recall.
10-ish, yeah.
Yeah. Any other questions from committee members, council members at large?
I did
Administration?
have.
Yes.
Oh, sorry, I had a question. So Chris, I'll rely on your expertise. So we can't pick the lower term rate
That-
and save all the interest?
That would be an auditor question. I believe they were looking at doing the 7-year.
He just said the 7-year, the chief said the 7-year, right? Isn't that
I
what he
didn't say the
said?
7-year, I just said that it's ready to be picked up.
Right.
Oh, maybe picked
Chris
up.
had said that he thought
Chris
in
said
discussions that it
7-year.
was a 7-year.
But there's no penalty.
Can we? I had this all figured out on my other sheet of paper 6 months ago. I didn't on this one.
There's always options in the future to do modifications if something.
But you usually
changes.
have to pay for that, right?
No.
Oh, it does say there's no prepayment penalty.
Prepayment, but if you change the terms of the
I-
loan, is there a fee?
I'm gonna guess if he called Scott Heil, there wouldn't be a modification fee.
Because as you know, the longer the term, the more interest
Right.
Correct.
and taxpayer dollars you're spending.
I think it comes down to the fact of, can you afford it in 2 years versus 7 years? That's an easy question.
That's what I was asking.
Okay, I didn't hear you ask that, I guess.
Yeah,
Can we lower the term?
Yeah.
I guess sorry, Mr. Chairman.
Go ahead.
If we do the 7-year and we came across more money,
Yeah,
then
there
we'll
you
be able
go.
to pay it off
Then we
early.
pay it
So
down.
instead of
Okay.
redoing the terms, we
And I know that's something Steve and I have had this conversation many times.
I'd
that,
love to
you
be
know,
in-
I would
I'd love to be
to
in a
get to
position where we
spot
can pay,
We can
yeah.
prepare
Yeah.
to, you know, if you have to do a 7 now, maybe next time you have to do, you can do a 5 and then you
Or a
try to
3
prepare
or-
for a
yeah.
3.
Right.
Yeah.
I've spoken on the police cars, I've spoken on everything, like, I wanna get to those days if possible, so,
We've got to build toward that, there's no
Yeah.
doubt, but that's not going to happen
right now.
quickly. Yeah. Other questions regarding,
So,
yes,
Mr. Chairman, is there this might be a question for the chief, do we know like what the difference in cost is for the chassis versus the box? Do we know the whole unit is?
that I do not know.
He,
That I
That's
do
one
not
for
know.
the chief.
I think
That
he
would've
did
been-
mention it in our meeting. but
He did.
don't
I can't remember
exactly
what the
it was
numbers
too,
were.
and unfortunately,
it was pretty,
Yeah.
it was pretty significant.
Yeah.
Yeah, I would have to imagine that's the box is
He
probably the
sent
more
us a
expensive
price sheet,
part.
right?
Yeah.
Maybe we can forward that to you, what we got
I'd have to look it up.
6 months ago. I know we have to look it up.
I wanna say it was like, I wanna say it was almost half, wasn't it?
I would say it's
It
probably
was-
close to
Yeah,
that.
it was pretty,
It was easily 50 or 60% of
Yeah, I
it.
can't.
I just don't
remember.
wanna say a number, cause I don't
Yeah.
remember.
Anything we said would be a lie. Don't want to do that. Don't want to do that. Other questions? Is there any action to be taken on Resolution 7, 2025?
I move that we add Resolution 7, 2025 to tonight's agenda. This is not an emergency issue, or it is.
You
It
would like
is.
to pick it up.
And recommend suspension of the rules and passage on first reading.
Okay, we have a motion. Do we have a second?
Second.
Uh,
Oh, sorry.
Our alternate will second since
Term.
you are not able to.
Go
tonight.
ahead.
He's going to have to
Can't vote on
recuse
it.
himself. So
Either-
can I take her second
Yes.
as an alternate? Yeah. Okay. Mr. Lancer?
Yes.
Mr. Crabble, I know you're abstaining.
I have to recuse myself.
Yes, and I will also vote yes, and I am assuming that Mrs. Ramos is a yes, so we will move this forward tonight and put it on tonight's agenda and ask for it to be, the rules to be suspended and passed on first reading. Thank you. Last thing I have on the agenda here, and Mr. Law Director, I'm going to throw the table to you to discuss ordinance, what is this? 4, 2025, okay? You can give, a lot of us here don't have the background and the history,
Okay.
so hopefully you can help us, and I know that we have some folks from the municipal court that would like to speak on this as well, so.
Yes. 7 years ago, I brought in the very first crime victim advocate for the municipal court in the history of municipal court. I did that by applying for a grant. This has become even more so important by virtue of Marcy's Law that was passed, which is, in Ohio, is considered the Crime Victims' Bill of Rights. Today, crime victims have constitutional rights that are guaranteed when they are a victim of a crime in courtroom, whether it's municipal court, Southern District Court, or Common Pleas Court. At the time that this was passed, it was done through Ordinance 18, 2018. And my idea at that time, what I proposed to council was that the grant would pay 80%, and then the 20% that would be required would be paid for out of the CLOX fund. The CLOX fund is derived from Ordinance 2929.27, which I provided everybody with a copy of that. Has everybody gotten a copy of that? Or do you need me to explain what 2929.27 is? Everybody good with that? Okay. And I thought this was a good idea. I still think it's a good idea. In essence, what 2929.27 does is people who are been convicted of a crime and sentenced to community service, if they choose not to do the community service, they can pay a fee instead. And what I pushed and what council approved was to redirect those funds towards the Victim Advocate Program so that the grant would pay for it. It would be paid for out of a combination of the grant and the funds derived from 2929.27. And that's what was passed and that's what was approved. It was also to establish the Victim Advocate Fund. For whatever reason, that was not established by the state auditor's office. We didn't know that until as late as Friday, correct? Was when we got confirmation that that had not gone through at the state level, and they instructed us on what was required to do it. I'm just gonna give you a little bit of background of what a crime victim advocate does. A crime victim advocate is there to counsel and make sure that crime victims' rights are protected. Crime victims have the right to be involved in every level of the proceedings now, and to have a say with regards to sentencing, which is something that was not guaranteed by the Constitution as it is now. My crime victim advocate does a wonderful job, does a super job. I actually did really well in hiring her because we have a rather large Hispanic population here, Hispanic-speaking population, and my victim advocate is actually bilingual. If we did not have a bilingual person, we would anytime we had a crime victim that did not speak English, we would have to hire an interpreter. But we kind of got a twofer for that because she speaks the language. This is not, it would not be an easy thing to have a prosecutor do, because sometimes a prosecutor is at odds with what a victim might want necessarily. Take, for instance, domestic violence, which is probably one of the larger, most serious cases that the judge sees in her courtroom. Domestic violence, the essence of domestic violence is about control. And generally you have crime victims in those cases that are so controlled by the abuser that they might control their phone, who they can talk to, who their friends are, what money they're allowed to have, whether they're allowed to have money. And oftentimes and that is enforced usually by the abuser through abuse. And oftentimes, it's gotten so bad that the police have been called because the person has been hurt significantly. And then we're facing a charge. And oftentimes in those cases where the person is so controlled by the abuser, they might come in and say, I just want to drop it. I just want the whole thing dropped. I don't want to go forward. My prosecutors and me are charged with doing justice. And, you know, we can't come in and say, well, they want it dropped, therefore we're going to drop it. We have to do what's right under the law. But the victim advocate can get that person counseling, help them through the process, make sure that their voice is heard, make sure that if they're in a bad situation, that they get out of that, make sure that they get a protection order. And so it's a really important position, and it's almost absolutely necessary by virtue of Marcy's Law. And like I said, I thought it was a good idea that it be partially funded by people who chose not to do community service and pay a fee anyways that have already been convicted of a crime. I thought that was unique. I still think that's a good idea. The problem that has arisen is we're not getting as much money as we used to for that program from the state. Previously, when we got it, I think the first 3 years when we had it, it covered everything. I think our first allocation was something like $56,000 or something like that. We looked at it today with the auditor. And when we apply for salary, we apply for it to cover OPRS, Social Security, Medicare, workers' compensation benefits, medical insurance, life insurance, vision insurance, personal services, travel. All that is what we applied for. The last one that we applied for this year, we applied for $65,853.39. Back in 2020, I don't know if this was related to COVID or not, but back in 2020, they stopped the grant altogether for about a year because the federal government did not authorize the funds that the state relies on. It was just sitting there, it just needed to be reauthorized. In fact, I think I had council at that time pass a resolution asking Congress to do their job and reauthorize it, which they eventually did. But then when it came back to us, we didn't get as much money as we did before. I've got an email into the state to find out why that's happened, but I haven't heard back from them yet. But we applied for $65,853.39, which would have covered all the things that I outlined. We were only allocated $33,209.63, which actually comes to $26,567.70, which would substantially increase what is needed to fund that program. And so that's really what's before council as to whether, how they want to fund that program, if they want to continue to do it as what we had hoped to do back in 2018. I've also done other things to try and generate money myself for that program. I negotiated with Dover and Strasburg so that they could use the victim advocate for their cases by paying us a fee. And the auditor knows exactly how much that is. I've got that here if anybody needs to know it. I am looking at increasing it based upon conversations that we had today. So if that can be increased, I will increase it. So that's really what's before council, and that's the long and short of the issue. I think that covers everything that I spoke to you about. Did I leave anything out that you're aware of?
I've been trying to cconnect the dots as I've read through all these ordinances and resolutions from previously, trying to figure out exactly what's going on with all of them.
And one of the reasons the auditor wanted it is, right now, the money's kind of all over the place, and she wants a fund where it's all gonna go into, and it's all gonna be paid out of. So for instance, the money that I was generating from Dover and Strasburg was going into the general fund, and this way it'll be guaranteed to go into the victim advocate fund to be spent out of that fund. So, and I know the judge is gonna wanna be heard on this too, and that's why I wanted to make sure she was here tonight, and I know her court administrator, Judy's here also.
Questions for the law director? So as I read this, we are setting up a fund number for the auditor. What I'm not sure I'm understanding is, are we also doing the percentages, or were those done in a previous ordinance?
2018
Right,
had an 80-20 split.
right, which is still in effect at this point, right?
It's still in effect, but it has not been enforced or utilized
Okay.
in 7 years.
But it is a piece of legislation, so we're not passing that. We're essentially, you're asking, and the auditor is asking for us, as a council, just to create a line item on her budget.
That's correct, but like I said, because of the decreased funding, that is going to
Right.
put a greater burden on the CLOCS fund.
Yeah. I'm looking at the legislation that's before us, though.
Right.
I understand there's ramifications thereof, but as far as what we are voting on would be just to create.
Create the fund and for how it's to be funded. That's specified in there too.
The 2018, it authorized you to create the fund. The
Mhm.
fund was never created. I
Right.
contacted the state last week. They said they don't have any record, so we don't know where.
Okay.
So they
So all
advised
this
that
really
we-
does is rectifies that account was never set up. It
On the
doesn't
state level,
reauthorize
right?
2018.
Yeah,
I
yeah,
mean-
you authorized it, it was not set up with the state, and since they said that, we wanted to drop the 80-20%, they advised us to do new legislation.
Fully a different ordinance.
Yeah, they
Okay.
advised us to do different.
So you've
ordinance.
removed the 80-20. I just want to make sure I understand what we're
That's
dealing
correct.
with here.
That's correct.
Okay.
It would be
You got a
offset by the
question, Sharon?
CELOX funds, anything that's not provided by the grant.
Okay.
Well, my question, I just said it was we did our part, the state didn't do
Right.
their part.
Correct.
Yeah, we passed the legislation that never got
Right.
established.
That's right.
Other
So-
questions for either the auditor or for the law director?
This also
Can I
cleans
ask-
up one other thing. It allows her to deposit the other funds that I bring in for that into one fund in the victim advocate
Without having to
fund.
transfer them out of general fund at
Which will
each year.
shrink the number.
So we don't have to worry about that money going into the general fund and being spent someplace else.
Yes.
So how is it gonna be funded then?
It's going, this
Combination of the grant and CELOX.
grant and
how it would be
CLOC is
funded.
what this is
Okay.
calling for. Okay, that helps to clarify for me. Because as I read it, my head, I won't lie to you, my head was spinning, going, okay, I'm looking back at old stuff, I'm looking at new stuff, and I'm trying to figure out where we were, where we are, and what we need,
So
so.
trust me, I had a heck of a time writing. it,
Okay.
right? And
Well-
the auditor and I.
And I'm not nearly as smart as you, Marvin, so
I couldn't do your job.
you
in a
understand my
million years, trust me.
difficulty. I would love to open the floor to the members of the court to talk to us, please.
Okay, thank you so much. I'm Judge Von Allman, and,
Go to the microphone,
Judge.
Judge.
oh, I have to go to the podium?
Yes, please.
Okay, so, the reason we asked to be heard was because Heather had raised some questions, good questions. She's doing a phenomenal job. I'm very impressed with what she's doing as far as the auditor. But she raised some questions with Judy and I about the 18 ordinance and the fund and so forth. And so there was some emails going back and forth, and we didn't really hear anything else. And then yesterday, I just happened to be going through my emails at home, and I saw that I had received an email from Heather at Marvin's request, where he had drafted this ordinance number 4, 2025, which makes potentially a fairly significant change to my CELOX fund. And I just want to go back and say that the CELOX fund is not something that the court had historically. I'm not sure exactly when the Ohio legislature allowed the courts to enact these funds, but we did not have one prior to, I don't know, 2017. But this is a program that is entirely voluntary. People can either work the community service if they do not have funds, or if they work a lot and don't have time to do community service, they can buy it out. Right now, the rate is $10 per hour. We're probably going to be raising that. That was one of the suggestions that came out of some other budgeting meetings that we had with council. But in any event, these are the monies that Judy had talked about that we were going to be putting toward if council wants us to refurbish the building and so forth. But when I read this ordinance, this is the first I had seen it yesterday afternoon. It makes a potentially very significant change to the amount that the court would have to pay out of the CELOX fund, because originally it was we would pay the grant match, which is 20%. And, you know, I didn't worry too much about the fact that, well, Marvin sets the salary and the benefit, council sets the benefits, or he recommends a salary and you guys set it. That wasn't a big deal to me. But now what we're seeing, potentially, without any request for any input from the court, from Judy or I, without really looking at any numbers, what is CELOX doing? Is it holding its own? Are the funds down? What are we projecting? There was really no analysis of any money. It just was written that we would start to pay more and more, and I guess potentially 100% of the victim advocate if the grants, you know, if the grant goes away, because we don't really know what's going to be happening. So we are not opposed, obviously, to any of this
Okay.
in theory or concept. But we are asking the committee to table it, and I know Heather needs this done yesterday so that she can allocate funds for the first quarter. But Judy and I need the opportunity. We've emailed back and forth, and there's been a lot of, and you know, sometimes when you email, things aren't always understood as well as when you sit across the table from someone, then they can kind of get the gist of where you're coming from. Table this so that we can sit down with Marvin and Heather if need be and figure out, you know, what's doable. I was told that this was just a cleanup because we needed to set up this fund number 726 or 256, whatever it is. But it's not a cleanup. It is a substantial change to the previous ordinance, potentially. But can only say potentially because I don't know what the numbers are. I don't know what the numbers are.
And I think
they
you see
tried
that
to-
I was kind of in the same place as you are.
Well, I appreciate that because you're just looking at this for the first time and I've been like immersed in it for the last 24 hours, scrambling around. You know, and I think I think Strasburg pays $100 a month toward the victim advocate, and then Dover pays maybe $200 a month, or maybe not even that much.
1,000 and 2,000.
1,000 and 2,000? Oh, okay.
A year and 2,000.
Okay.
Under
I would suggest, and this will be one of the things I'd like to talk to Marvin about, is let's look at caseloads and how many cases does a victim advocate have from Strasburg, from Dover? There may be other villages that we want to approach. As, you know, if we're going to do this collaboration, which is a great idea, but let's base it on numbers and caseloads. I think Dover has a larger Hispanic population maybe than we do per capita, so, you know, we may want to pitch that to them. So I'm just asking you, it was presented as an emergency to be passed tonight. All we're asking is for maybe, when do you meet, in 2 weeks?
Well, we are gonna be holding another finance committee meeting in the middle of next week to discuss the budget. Would we be able to?
I feel like that's enough time, because we've already made progress via emails, but Judy's email, you know, it's the four of us kind of going, and you know how those things get.
Yeah.
Once they get about
And
6
I'd be-
pages long.
I'd be happy to sit in if you need me.
Yeah.
Throw one
So-
more confusion into the mix.
No, well, I mean, I just appreciate the fact that you seem to have picked up on, and that's just, I saw it was gonna be passed as an emergency, and then, you know, possibly passed as, you know, tonight at council. And we just need a little more time to figure out what's what, because, you know, I'm kind of protective of the CLOCS funds, because those are what Judy had pointed out to you, that if you guys want us to put money into the building, that's what it was it was assigned to us for, and that's what we're gonna do with it. So I need to know what we're committing to here.
Well, let me ask the auditor, if we were to table this and let you guys talk, work this into the budget numbers that we're gonna get together next week, and then we can also pass this at the same time. Does that work for you?
I think it could. You wanted to pass the budget next week, and that's why I wanted
Well,
to
we
know
wanna
which-
put the budget before the finance committee
Yes.
next week.
Yes,
We would
so-
probably not even vote on it until the next council meeting the following Monday.
So I
we
can
would-
make it, yeah, the budget, I can.
If it's
do it two
workable,
ways,
I
and,
would-
You know, I was trying to get it out of general fund before we all met.
Yes,
but
I understand.
That can't happen.
Chris?
So we'll just, I'm fine with tabling it, I mean, that makes more sense, so. I agree. Yeah,
Okay,
if you can get more information.
I would entertain that motion. Are you moving that we
I'll make a
table it
motion that we table,
and let them meet?
sorry,
Okay.
which one was it?
That is
Ordinance
ordinance
four.
4/2025.
Yeah.
And Mr. Chairman, I'm not opposed to that either, for the record.
Okay,
Judge, it always has that language to be passed as an emergency in case
Yeah.
council chooses to do that. Every one of our
every
ordinances
one
and
of our ordinances
resolutions.
start that way.
It wasn't targeted at this particular
Thank you,
ordinance.
Judge, for coming.
Yes,
Explaining,
and,
so.
and you can see, it'll help me to understand better as well, so,
Yeah, we'll tweak it, and you'll have it back next week.
okay.
All right.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yes,
I made the motion.
Quick question, but we already set up a fund, right?
No,
No.
no, that's what,
So
whatever
it
I.
wasn't at the state, it was our level? We didn't
We
set up
don't
the
know.
fund.
The fund was just
Where
never
it's at.
created, so now we have to go through the
Oh,
process
okay,
again.
We
that
don't know,
was
the
an
state
earlier
didn't have-
question I
the
had,
state-
was at the state, we did
Yeah.
it, but
So
no,
the
we didn't do it.
State didn't have a record of it,
Okay.
and consequently, nothing was appropriated out of the CLOX fund for it.
I see that we are at 7:15, and I know there's another committee meeting to begin at 7:15. So if there's no other business to come before the committee, I would entertain a motion to
So
adjourn.
moved.
Thank you. Second? We are in adjournment at 7:16. Sorry about the overrun.
All right, it's 7:16, our committee is a whole call to order. We have one issue to discuss here tonight, is ordinance 8/2025. It's a amendment of, resolution 8/2025. It's an amendment of resolution 10/2024. And I'm going to turn it over to Chris Carnville, who is our representative on the DORA board, and they are requesting this ordinance tonight.
Yeah, okay, and I also got a president too, Dee Grossman, back here of the DORA board, if you have questions for her as well. So, this was brought to the DORA board by the Impact Group, who is our new non-for-profit that has obviously been put together to help develop the downtown. They meet once a month, and everybody's welcome to go to their meetings as well. So they sent Dee an email and with a list of 6 things in their request. Number 1 was, it was a burden on the city to put up and take down 60 signs each time there is an event for DORA. So just a reminder, in our original DORA plans that we approved last year, there's 60 different locations for the signs we have to put up every time there was a DORA event. The restaurants that are participating in, this is number 2, the restaurants that are participating in the DORA program would be prepared all the time and would not need to be notified each time there's an event. Their personnel won't get confused whether or not an event is a DORA event or not. The last event they had, there was miscommunication, and I want to say it was either Brewhouse or J&G, I can't remember which one, I'm sorry about that, that they told the manager, and then the manager forgot to tell the other manager, and they actually had listed on their brochure that DORA was going to be at that location, and they were not prepared and didn't have the glasses out. So that was what happened to them at the last event they did. Number 3, there have not been any negative incidents at the events that have used DORA. When the DORA board met, we had the police chief there, and she said that there's no problems whatsoever at the 2 events. The restaurants have gotten requests for DORA when there are no events. That was self-explanatory. Number 5, more events are being planned that will be applying for a DORA permit. Self-explanatory. Number 6, most of the questions on the DORA permit are duplicated on the city event permit. And that was also discussed at the DORA meeting as well, and that was true. I mean, if you look at the DORA one and look at the city, and they're almost duplicated. So some questions we've had since, so obviously the DORA board met, there's 5 of us on that board. And again, the police chief came as well, which was very helpful, so we were able to ask her opinion, see if she saw any issues. And the DORA board did vote to approve it and move it on to city council at a 5-0 vote. There will be, the 60 signs that will need to be made will be covered by the Impact Group. Jim Nisley, who just walked in, has gotten a hold of the local restaurants that involved with DORA, and all of them, the majority of them agreed to donate towards those signs, so that'll be no cost to the city. Those will be able to be put up relatively quickly. Ron's got the company that we got a quote through, and we got a sample of what the sign may look like. It has to have a little bit of modifications to match the time. So the times that were approved by the DORA board, it's Sunday through Thursday, and that is 12 to 9 p.m. Then Friday and Saturday is 12 to 11 p.m. If you look around similar communities around the area, all of them have slightly different hours. This is the one who crafted and felt worked for our community. Trying to think, I want to have a few more things I wanted to answer before, I'm sorry, I'm trying to get this in here. So, there's a couple other things. The VFW is our sponsor. People ask, where again does that money go to? The VFW, the money from this is a veteran program that the funds go to. There's questions about the impact. How do we see the impact to our community from a tax revenue basis? There's actually, I mean, we're not gonna require tax returns on businesses or anything like that. There's really no way to exactly see the impact that will be coming to our community from a tax revenue standpoint. You know, I kind of compare it to the parks. There's no way to see exactly what Tuscarora Park does for our community from a tax revenue standpoint, but we know it brings a lot of people to our community. The DORA board, the question was asked, would the DORA board be dissolved? It will not. We have agreed to meet at minimum yearly. More than likely, we'll try to meet twice a year. And we have asked the impact group to help us with getting us numbers each year of how many cups went through. Obviously, right now, we've only had a couple events through the special, so it's not like, there's not like a large number, but those are kept, and the impact group has agreed to help us keep track of those numbers along with the VFW. We, obviously, the DORA board is very well aware that there is some people in the community that are not for this, and we understand that, and anybody that was here in 2024 saw that there are some people against it, but the DORA board believes the impact group is doing great things for our downtown. We also believe that our downtown is very important to this community, and we want to try to help keep moving it in the right direction and help it to have successfulness that other communities have that have added DORA. Again, there obviously will be some public backlash with anything that has to do with alcohol. I know I'm a strong believer. I can't speak for everybody on the DORA board, but we did vote yes that you know, DORA brings in people to our community that are not what you would think as a negative impact to go. Anybody that has been to a DORA has seen that. We cut off the times when, you know, they're not going till midnight. There is, I think Canton goes to midnight. So we're trying to eliminate the late night where you start to get into worrying about what goes on afterwards. Talking to the chief, there are those problems are here. You know, those are here every single weekend, every single night in our alleys, you know, in the downtown walking through. So those are, you know, things you have to worry about. I do not believe DORA will contribute to that, and I believe the DORA board doesn't either. When we had those conversations, we had a lengthy conversation. It was a very good conversation. The 5 of us on that board are different. Would you agree, Dee? I mean, we had very different opinions, great conversation in there, and we do believe when we voted 5-0 that we do believe this will help the community and continue to move us in the right direction to help everybody that is trying to help our downtown get, just continue to get better. With that, Dee, do you want to add anything for me too that I might have missed on behalf of the DORA board as the president?
I have a few handouts here, and I will go to the podium. Thank you, everybody, for allowing the DORA board to speak. We just respectfully request that you amend the legislation and allow the DORA board to become permanent. The impact group will be paying for those signages. There will be no cost to the city. I don't think there's any other questions. Debbie, Jim, anything? That there's been no issues regarding the safety of residents or visitors for this. But again, the DORA board will continue to meet twice a year. We will evaluate, and we will work with the police department to make sure that everything remains safe. Are there any questions of me?
Got any questions from council? Yes, Ms. Ramos?
I know you answered some of the questions I sent in my email earlier to council. I don't think this should be rushed through, but I did call the high school today, and they do have an open lunch for juniors and seniors, Mondays through Fridays, till about 1 o'clock, 12:52. So of course, my concern, as I've stated before, is a message we're sending to our youth. So I would, besides this whole thing, definitely not want this open when they're in the downtown.
The high school is not in the DORA parameters.
No, the high school isn't, but when you have open lunch, you can leave the high school
Correct.
Perimeters, property, and walk to the downtown where it's open for a DORA.
What is the timing of their open lunch?
The what?
What is the timing of their open lunch period?
Okay, it ends at 12:52.
Okay.
It's for,
We
2
would be in
periods.
agreement to
Starts
amend
at
our
10
request to
something.
1 o'clock. I think that 1 o'clock would be appropriate. Yeah, it's still good for the, yeah. Say that again? I got you. He said it'll hurt the bar owners for lunch. It is still on the bar owners to serve or not serve alcohol.
Yeah, they can serve it. They-
Not to the
People
youth.
just can't walk around with it.
Right, but not to the
Open
youth. They're not
carry.
serving it to the youth. They don't want to lose their liquor license.
Yeah, well, yeah. they
I
wouldn't want
understand,
to.
I understand your concern.
How long
And-
is a period at the schools again?
That ends
Oh, I
at
don't even know
12:52.
But that's the actual lunch, but you have 3 lunch periods.
Yes.
Right, it starts at 10 something. I left my note at home, but
It's 40 minutes only, I think juniors
40
and seniors
minutes,
are permitted
an
to
hour.
leave. So it's not like there's any middle school
So
kids
there's
there.
no one, my point is I know I went to school and had lunch. I went to the Boulevard. We barely had time to get through the drive-through and get back,
Yeah.
let alone
Not
walk
really a quick
downtown.
service downtown. It's
Yeah, the
more-
only one that people walk to is Dairy Queen.
Dairy Queen.
But they're not
that's the only one
21,
in
you got them
time.
21.
It's 40 minutes, got 40
Yeah.
minutes.
Well, you could go with you any day, Cheryl.
Well, I mean, if people are walking around with liquor, we know this is gonna happen. That somebody's gonna know somebody that's old enough to buy and they're gonna share. That
Right.
happens a lot.
Okay.
That can happen at Circle K, that can happen at
Yeah,
Giant Eagle, that
anywhere,
can
but I'm
happen-
just saying, we've got to consider that. And also, I'd like to see consideration for residents that don't particularly want to be in a town conducting their business and have to be exposed, increased exposure to alcohol consumption in the open. Open carry alcohol is what we're talking about.
Understand your concerns. Are there any other questions that we can answer?
I have a comment, Mr. President.
Yes, Tom.
I think it's great that this program is off to a good start. It's had 2 successful events without incident, and I think that's what makes it a success, right? I think it's a
Yes.
little early, though, to throw open the gates and say, okay, let's have at it. I think we need a little more experience with DORA before we open the gates. I have confidence that our city can handle it, that the DORA board can handle it, but just, you don't even have to ask for a permit or anything anymore, you just go ahead and do it. I'm not in favor of that, not yet. After we have some more success, I'm good for it. But I appreciate people like Carrie's back here
Well,
and some
you
others.
Get to him.
Pardon me?
We're gonna get to Carrie here.
I don't think
No,
we're
but
going to.
I'm
They're
still
going
speaking.
to.
I don't think
No,
we're
I
going to,
just
Mr.
want to say,
President.
I just want to say, I appreciate all the people that came in here from weeks and weeks and weeks of council meetings, and they're religious people, they had all kinds of messages. I'm sensitive to their messages, and I'm not about to just all of a sudden shoot them down.
All right.
I'd like
I
to
know
make,
we might run over a couple minutes.
Thank
Carrie,
you.
got a quick
you can
comments?
speak during,
I'll keep my comments
Counsel.
short. In fact, Mr. President, I will read my comments into the public record.
Well, I'll tell you what, Carrie, we got public comments coming up. I would ask if you would wait till then.
I can do that as long as we're not gonna have a vote on this before the public comments. Because I want my voice heard. I want the Empower Tusk Coalition's voice heard on
Hasn't been
this.
passed out of committee. has it?
Because quite frankly, I'm a little upset with the direction that we're going, because when this was passed back in October, and we went through all those different meetings, it was said by council people here that this was going to be now let me get to my points here. This was going to be a situation where it's special events only. And those special events were said to hold for about a year, until you had the data to try to determine whether this concept is successful or not, or if it is successful, what changes need to be done. Again, I'll wait for my comments then, as long as we're not gonna have a vote before.
I'm gonna wait, is there gonna be a recommendation from council?
I'd like to make a recommendation that we add resolution number 8, 2025 to tonight's agenda for first reading.
I'll second that.
All right, but then it's gonna be held for more than one reading, Carrie.
Well, that's not according to what the resolution says. The resolution has an emergency clause in it.
Marvin already said that earlier.
Mr. Metzger, the reason that has that, that's in every one of our
I
ordinances
understand,
and
but
resolutions, in
it's an
case council wants to do
oxymoron,
that.
the way that it's worded. Because it talks about the fact that we're going to protect the health and safety and welfare of the citizens of the city of New Philadelphia. That's an oxymoron, because you were dealing with an intoxicating drug. And now you can laugh about it, but that's what it is. It's an intoxicating drug. And so,
We're gonna hold it for first reading, so then we'll
If
be.
we vote yes. We have to
If we
vote
vote
yes.
yes, correct.
Yes,
No. Me and Tom are no's.
I'm a no.
That's fine.
I'm not.
So you have to take a vote.
I understand that.
Committee of the whole.
No, it's committee of the whole.
So if it passes, it'll be for first reading, so you can still make your comments at the public participation.
yeah, but I do not want this, I want this thing settled with 3 readings.
It's gonna be 3 readings.
It's gonna be
We
3
didn't-
readings,
Yeah,
Carrie.
tonight's gonna be the first one.
Okay, well, that's not, again, I just got this information from Councilwoman Ramos on Friday.
Yeah.
And that was the first iteration of the ordinance. And the ordinance then said that it would be 5 days a week, and 2 days it wouldn't be there. Then on Sunday night, I get another email from Councilwoman Ramos that said, oh, no, it's gonna be 7 days a week now. I mean, this thing has happened within the concept of 2 or 3 days. The public needs to understand what this council is doing, because this is a major policy decision that you're going to make.
It hasn't been 2 or 3 days, because the impact group met, and then the DORA board.
Well,
met.
I'm glad to hear that, but
Yeah,
council
but
didn't know
we
it.
got informed of it.
And we did not, as far as Empower Tusk, we never heard about it until Councilwoman Ramos talked to us about it, because you know we were not a huge advocate for the DORA. And this upsets me, because I've been in government for a number of years. And I've never seen this type of thing being ramrodded through
Well,
prior to the public having the notification.
it was discussed for several months, Carrie, before, but we're gonna have to start council meetings, so we got a motion on the floor, we got a first and a second, so we'll do roll call.
Mr. Kribel?
Yes.
Mr. Lanzer?
Yes.
Mrs. Ramos?
No.
Mr.
Whoa,
Rippon?
yes.
Mr. Sears?
Yes.
Mr. Simmelink?
No.
Mr. Walker?
Yes.
All right, so we put on the agenda tonight for first reading. All righty, 7:35, so entertain a motion to adjourn our council committee as a whole.
President?
So moved.
All right, thank you, Mr. Simmerlink. All right, this meeting of New Philadelphia City Council will now come to order. Please rise for the invocation and pledge of allegiance. Before I turn it over to Mr. Griffith, I'd like to inform everyone that we need to keep Mr. Popham, our safety director, family in our prayers as he passed away suddenly this afternoon. So we ask you to continue to pray for his wife and their kids. And I'm going to turn it over to Mr. Rippeth for a moment of silence and prayer.
Thank you. As the president of council told you, today we lost a dedicated and beloved public servant and a better friend and human being in Greg Popham. I would ask that you join me now in a moment of silence, just in remembrance of our friend. Thank you. Would you please join me in prayer? Most gracious Heavenly Father, Lord, at times like this, we're just reminded of how fragile life really is. And we're reminded that we have a finite number of hours on this earth. And I just pray that you'll help guide us all to do as Greg did, to dedicate ourselves to serving and to taking care of others. Father, we're saddened by his loss, but we celebrate that he's now in your presence. Amen. And we pray that your perfect peace, a peace that passes all understanding, Lord, will come upon his family, his wife, his friends, and this entire community that he served so long and so well. Father, I pray for your presence here among us tonight, that you bring us comfort, you guide us, you inhabit all of our thoughts and actions and our deeds, Lord, as a body of leaders here to do what is best for this city. Surround the entire city, Lord, with a hedge of protection. Those who live, work, and serve in the city. Give us comfort. Keep us in your peace. And may all that we do here tonight be acceptable in your sight. We do this for your glory and your honor. In the name of your Son, Jesus, amen.
Amen. I
pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right, thank you. And welcome everyone to our March the 10th council meeting. We will start off with roll call.
Mr. Kreinbell.
Here.
Mr. Lanzer.
Here.
Mrs. Ramos.
Here.
Mr. Rippeth.
Here.
Mr. Sears.
Here.
Mr. Simile.
Here.
Mr. Walker.
Here.
All right, we have a quorum. Everybody's had the chance to look at the agenda for tonight. Are there any additions to our agenda?
Yes, Mr. President.
Yes, Mr. Rippeth.
I would like to add Resolution 5, 2025 to tonight's agenda for
All
first
right, do I
reading.
have a second? Mr. Lanzer, thank you. In discussion by administration, council, roll call.
Mr. Rippeth.
Yes.
Mr. Lanzer.
Yes.
Mr. Kreinbell.
Yes.
Mrs. Ramos.
Yes.
Mr. Sears.
Yes.
Mr. Simile.
Yes.
Mr. Walker.
Yes.
All right. It's ordinance 5, right?
Resol-
A resolution 5.
Resolution 5.
Get it right here, okay. Any other additions?
I have
Yes.
another one, Mr. President.
Yes.
I would like to add Resolution 7, 2025 to tonight's agenda, and I would ask the council to suspend the rules and pass that as an emergency tonight if possible.
Do we have a second? Okay, Mr. Granville, thank you. In discussion by administration, council, roll call.
Mr. Rippeth.
Yes.
Mr. Kreinbell.
Yes.
Mr. Lanzer.
Yes.
Mrs. Ramos.
Yes.
Mr. Sears.
Yes.
Mr. Simile.
Yes.
Mr. Walker.
Yes.
All right, are there any other additions to the agenda tonight? Yes, Mr.
Yes,
Lanzer.
Mr. President, I'd like to add proposed Resolution 2, 2025 to the tonight's agenda.
Do I have a second? Thank you, Mr. Rippeth. In discussion by administration, council, roll call.
Mr. Lanzer.
Yes.
Mr. Rippeth.
Yes.
Mr. Kreinbell.
Yes.
Mrs. Ramos.
Yes.
Mr. Sears.
Yes.
Mr. Simile.
Yes.
Mr. Walker.
Yes.
All right, any other additions? Yes, Mr.
Yes,
Lanzer.
Mr. President, I'd like to add proposed Resolution 3, 2025 to tonight's agenda.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Mr. Rippeth, thank you. Any discussion by administration, council, roll call?
Mr. Lanzer.
Yes.
Mr. Rippeth.
Yes.
Mr. Kreinbell.
Yes.
Mrs. Ramos.
Yes.
Mr. Sears.
Yes.
Mr. Simile.
Yes.
Mr. Walker.
Yes.
All right. Any other addition? Yes, Mr. Alonso.
Yes, Mr. President, I'd like to add proposed resolution 4/2025 to tonight's agenda.
Do I have a second?
Yes, sir.
Mr. Rippeth, all right, thank you. In discussion by administration, council, roll call.
Mr. Lanzer.
Yes.
Mr. Rippeth.
Yes.
Mr. Kreinbell.
Yes.
Mrs. Ramos.
Yes.
Mr. Sears.
Yes.
Mr. Simile.
Yes.
Mr. Walker.
Yes.
All right, any other additions? Yes, Mr. Alonso.
Yes, Mr. President, I'd like to add proposed resolution 5/2025 to tonight's agenda.
All right, is there a second?
Yeah.
Go ahead, Chris.
I'll second it,
All right, thank you, Mr. Cranville.
just to give Steve a.
All right, give him a rest, all right. A discussion by administration, council, roll call.
Mr. Lanzer.
Yes.
Mr. Kreinbell.
Yes.
Mrs. Ramos.
No.
Mr. Rippeth.
Yes.
Mr. Sears.
Yes.
Mr. Simile.
Yes.
Mr. Walker.
All right. All right, it's been added to the agenda. Any other additions to the agenda? Hearing none, yes, Mr. Granville.
I'd like to add resolution number 8/2025 to tonight's agenda for first reading.
Do I have a second?
I'll second that, Mr. President.
All right, thank you, Mr. Lanzer. In discussion by administration, council, roll call.
Mr. Kreinbell.
Yes.
Mr. Lanzer.
Yes.
Mrs. Ramos.
Yes.
Mr. Rippeth.
Yes.
Mr. Sears.
Yes.
Mr. Simile.
Yes.
Mr. Walker.
Yes.
All right, any other additions to the agenda? It's quite a list, all right. All right, now I would entertain a motion to approve the agenda with all our additions.
So moved.
Thank you, Mrs. Zimmerlink. You need a second. Mr. Walker, thank you for your second. In discussion by administration, council, roll call.
Mr. Simile.
Yes.
Mr. Walker.
Yes.
Mr. Kreinbell.
Yes.
Mr. Lanzer.
Yes.
Mrs. Ramos.
No.
Mr. Rippeth.
Yes.
Mr. Sears.
Yes.
All right, then, been approved. Minutes, has everybody had a chance to review the minutes from our last council meeting? Are there any additions or corrections? Hearing none, entertain a motion to approve. Thank you, Ms. Ramos. Need a second? Thank you, Mr. Rippeth. In discussion by administration, council, roll call.
Mrs. Ramos.
Yes.
Mr. Rippeth.
Yes.
Mr. Kreinbell.
Yes.
Mr. Lanzer.
Yes.
Mr. Sears.
Yes.
Mr. Simile.
Abstain.
Mr. Walker.
Yes.
I was gonna skip. I was thinking, oh, that time's fine.
A loan agreement,
It was a better time than you did that night.
the new ambulance.
We need a new resolution 7 for the ambulance.
Did you miss?
I did.
You did that one?
Yeah.
Okay, somehow I missed it.
Yeah, that was one I recommended we do as an emergency.
Sorry. Okay, got it.
All right, so we're good. All right, correspondence, Ms. Courtwright.
Okay, let's see here. All right. To council and administration, from Executive Administrative Assistant to the Mayor Jamie Bailey, dated February 28th, 2025. This is the mayor's month-end report for February of 2025. To council and administration from Mayor Day, dated February 28th, 2025. This is an email titled TAP New Philadelphia Shout Out, and it states the following: the work of the Tuscarawas Arts Partnership is being recognized on the state level. Mayor Day shared an email that was sent to him by TAP's Wilma Mullins. To council and administration from Mayor Day, dated March 4th, 2025, the mayor's State of the City report. To council and administration from Danielle De Matteo with the Auditor's Office, dated March 4th, 2025. This is the Auditor's February 2025 report. To President Kemp from Law Director Fate, dated March 6th, 2025. This is an email titled, Please Assign to Committee of the Whole, with Resolution 8, 2025 as the attachment. President Kemp assigned the legislation to Committee of the Whole. To President Kemp from Law Director Fate, dated March 6, 2025. This is an email titled, Please Assign to Mr. Rippeth's Committee, with Resolution 7, 2025 as the attachment. And President Kemp asked Mr. Rippeth to take the legislation into his committee. To President Kemp from Law Director Fate dated March 6, 2025. This is an email titled, "Please assign to Mr. Simmeling's committee with Resolution 6, 2025 as the attachment." To President Kemp, President Kemp asked Mr. Simmeling to take the legislation into his committee. To President Kemp from Law Director Fate dated March 6, 2025. This is an email titled, "Please assign to Mr. Lonzer's committee with Resolution 2, 2025, Resolution 4, 2025, and Resolution 5, 2025 as the attachments." President Kemp asked Mr. Lonzer to take the legislation into his committee. To Council Clerk from Treasurer Gerber dated March 6, 2025. This is the Investment and Savings Report for February of 2025, and I emailed the report to council members. And that concludes correspondence for this evening,
All
Mr.
right.
President.
Thank you, Ms. Courtwright. Hey, Ron, would you have the volleyball team come in?
Okay, sure.
The mayor is in DC for a conference, so at this time, we know we passed a resolution. We got a proclamation for our Kent State Test Campus National Champion Volleyball Team. So we have the coach and AD and some of the players with us here this evening that we want to recognize.
You don't
Bring 'em
look
in.
like a
Come on in. Yep, come on in.
Come on, right up front.
Everybody come on in.
Come on up front here.
Yep, all the way up.
Right up front.
Congratulations, guys.
Who's the spokesman for the group? Not me. Not you?
Yeah, I was gonna say, no one's gonna step up on that one probably. Carla might.
No, not me. We need somebody to introduce everybody, so,
You're a captain.
all right. Go ahead.
Just down the line?
Yes.
Yep,
Just the names?
That's fine.
Introduce yourself.
Oh, I'm Lizzie. This is Matt. Hi. Kayla. Maddie. Coach Steve. Stefan. Coach Steve. Coach Courtney. I'm Lizzie. This is Allie. This is Riley. And then this is Kylie.
All right, thank you. We got a proclamation from the mayor we want to read.
Okay.
And so you can stay looking forward, you want to read it, so.
Okay, this is a proclamation from the City of New Philadelphia Office of the Mayor. Whereas the hard work, dedication, talent, and teamwork of the Kent State University Tuscarawas women's volleyball team has earned the Golden Eagles the first USCAA Division II National Championship in school history. And whereas the team defeated Penn State University Hazleton in 3 sets to win the national championship crown. The squad carried a 20-9 overall record for the season. And whereas, in addition to the national title, the historic 2024 season earned the Golden Eagles several prestigious honors, both as a team and individually. Coaches Courtney Goodwin and Steve Kolpis were honored with the USCAA Division II Coaching Staff of the Year Award. Riley Sensabaugh and Mackenzie Neidinger were named to the USCAA First Team All-American Team. Neidinger was also named the championship MVP. Elizabeth Keller was named with All-American Honorable Mention as well as All Academic Team Honors. Kayla Shrimplin, Jaylee Price, and Mackenzie Neidinger were all named to the all-tournament team. And whereas this team of exemplary athletes has set a new standard for excellence in women's volleyball at Kent State University Tuscarawas, we look forward to their continued success. Now therefore, and he put, I, Joel Day, Mayor of the City of New Philadelphia, recognize and enthusiastically congratulate the Kent State University Tuscarawas Women's National Volleyball Team on winning the 2024 USCAA Division II National championship. And here is your proclamation. And we have something else for you from the City of New Philadelphia City Council, so I'll give that to, there you go.
All right, we have the copy of the resolution that we're passing for the team, so who is the captain? You the captain? I'm gonna hand that to you, you can display that, and we'll get some
I
pictures
do want to
here.
get a picture.
You want a picture with a bunch of girls?
Trying to fit everybody in.
She's talking about you, Don.
Yes, you're in the picture too.
So,
All right. Perfect, thank you.
Now, each of you has to make a speech.
We definitely appreciate it. We're gonna win another one for you this year.
Great.
Great job.
Thank you guys, thanks very much, I appreciate you guys bringing us on, so thank you.
Yes,
thank you for coming.
congratulations.
Great what you girls
Congrats.
did.
Congratulations.
Great what you girls did.
Yeah, that's right.
Thank you for your support.
Yes, sir. Now go enjoy spring break.
All right, we'll move on. I'll get it right this time, we're on the service director report.
Under the circumstance, I'd have gladly taken that tonight. I won't talk much about Greg because everybody knows
It's been here a long time.
my emotions are on my sleeve and I'll be a bumbling idiot if I tried. So, what a great person. So, I'll stick to business. As you see, some of the parking signs that are downtown, ODOT, or not ODOT, but Shelley and Sands will come in and start the striping for the bike lane. So, they have this south side blocked or just marked so that no pay, because with that program, they need to stripe the parking stalls, that was part of the project. Then have where it says, the bike through on there, they'll have parking up through there. And then from Beaver Avenue down to Founder's Hall, they'll have the symbols, and then the arrows will be in the lanes through that. That's all they're gonna do. They're hoping to get that done tomorrow and then Wednesday. So then Wednesday, we'll go over to the side of the courthouse and have that blocked off. And as they open them up, or as they stripe them, and as it dries up, they'll let them in and out of there because of all the business and stuff like that. So they're well aware of the things going on, but it's just part of the project. There's not a great time to do it, but they're gonna start tomorrow. And they saw that weather, or that window of opportunity, so they're gonna try to cash in on that again tomorrow and then Wednesday. Finish up just the striping on down through there. They still have a bunch of work to do. They still got all the restoration work between the sidewalks and the curbs. They've got dirt it's not level. They've got some spots in there that have held some water that we've all noticed. And there's 6 risers that we had given to them for the manholes that they did not put in. So if you see some of them spots that are down there, you're thinking, what is going on? Well, they understand that they did not do them, so they still have our risers that we furnished for them. So they're gonna put them back in, and they'll probably end up having to do concrete around that versus the blacktop because of just what is going on there. You can't come back in with blacktop just around a 6 foot by 6 foot piece. So they'll have 6 of those that'll look like that going down through there. But again, they won't do that. I will update as the work continues to go through there. Only reason I'm bringing it up now is they're gonna do the striping and then clear out of town again and then come back in when everybody comes back to work and start all the restoration work, everything they need to do and finish it up. And as that comes along, I'll let everybody know that. At the last council meeting, I brought up that we had material bids last Monday, and then we had the bids for Glen Drive Phase 2. Report on Glen Drive, we had bids from we had one for $499, just under the 500,000 mark, up to $629. One under 500,000, we had the company T.R. Snyder in town before, and they did some CDBG projects for us, sidewalks and curbs. Looking through their references still, but until we do a border control on Friday to award that to them, right now they look like the lowest bidder and they've done good work, so I'm sure we're going to, but officially it'll be named on Friday border control. Also on material bids, I just want to add, once we look through those, surprisingly enough, paving this year was up roughly about $4.25 a ton. So a little bit, not crazy. But what I felt went up significant was hydrants, pipes, water line. It was up almost 12%. Just continues to go up. Some of our polymer that our wastewater uses more for our belt press, it was up slightly. Usually go through about 4 totes of that, so not a huge thing there. But on water projects, again, the typical was about 12%. And just want to mention the fact that, and it's been doing that. So as everybody knows, or some of you know, that every November, I got to recommend increases in that, throughout the water and sewer. So I'm sure with the increase in prices, you can just imagine what we have, carry over, and what the increase in prices are doing to things. It's going to meet sometime, but that's for another day. But that'll be in November. But I just want to share to you guys that it's up again about 12%. Especially with our hydrants. Hydrants just went, they was in about the 16% range. We did go out in the past 3 years, so I'd say in 20, 21, and 22, we got aggressive with hydrants. Thank goodness for that, because now we're doing them naturally with projects, but not sure if they get hit or something like that, we're doing them. But we got aggressive with them, with some of the old ones that just was old Muellers and only had 2 tabs on them, the old type ones. So we did get aggressive with them, and so we're not gonna get terribly hit, but naturally any water line project we do, that's part of a project. Every 400 feet, there's a hydrant, and naturally the pipe going up 12% on water line, a 6-inch water line. But just wanted to make note of that. And again, that's be in November, but we'll go down that road when we have to. Other than that, that's the end of my report.
How about the big water that was leaking last council meeting?
Oh, yes, I'm glad you said that. Had a few of you guys reach out to me and ask how it came along. Right outside of the building, we put an InstaValve, that InstaValve in, so we could isolate it. After getting in there, that was a hole and a half. I have some pictures, I should have sent them to everybody, I sent some that had asked me about it. But after putting the InstaValve in, we worked another day and a half and got it tied up. And actually, after we got it out, in the building, in the old building, it was a softener building, there was an old galvo elbow there that was split underneath there. So we was able to get that and put another piece in there and got that fixed. And like I said, at that meeting, the lower or the higher elevations, we may have been in a little bit of trouble, but with God shining down on us, we got it through. And again, that, forget their name, but those folks were great to work with. I was down there, and the guys was impressed with them also. It was a tough job, putting one of the InstaValves in. But that was the part that licked it good for us as far as, that we could go in and do our thing. But yes.
All right, any questions for Mr. McAbeer? All right, thanks, Ron.
Thank you.
All right, we move into the auditor,
Thank you, Mr. President.
Mrs. Denham.
Thank you, Mr. President. No report tonight.
All right, treasurer, Mr. Gerber.
No additional report. I submitted the February
investment and savings report to the clerk of courts, and she sent it out to each one of you. So no additional report. Okay, thanks, Tom. Law Director, Mr. Feet.
Thank you, Mr. President. As far as the work I've done recently, I think you see it in the 10 pieces of legislation I sent you. That's got to be some kind of record in terms of stuff that I've done. But I wanted to raise for a somber reason. I only recently learned of the passing of Greg Poppin, and I wanted to share my personal thoughts and feelings on that. When I was a kid, and I mean a little kid running around at Tuscarora Park, Greg Poppin was a police officer. And I remember, it's really unusual that you remember the names of police officers from when you were a kid if you didn't get in trouble. And I was never in trouble, but people like Greg Poppin, Officer Raymond Nelson, Officer Burt Link, they were all police officers together at that time, and those were the types of people that my dad would point to for me to look up to and to respect, and to know those are your friends, those are the people you trust. Somebody ever comes after you, or tries to grab you, tries to put you in your car, these are the ones you can seek out, they're the ones you know that are gonna take care of you. So it was always a happy occasion to see them, whether it was at the park or wherever, and they always talked to you, and it was so cool that a police officer was talking to you. So imagine somebody that I looked up to as a child being afforded the opportunity to work with him as law director, and with him as safety director. And I loved having Greg's wealth of knowledge at my fingertips. He was better than having a Google search engine or a whole criminal law library. I literally just talked to him, I literally called him Saturday to get his advice and input on something. And he knew our codified criminal code better than I could if I'm here for another 20 years, and could tell me chapter and verse where to look for it. I'd ask, what did you guys do on this in the past? And that's something I deal with all the time on a daily basis. That's literally 50% of my job as law director. And so having him, his guidance, his wisdom available to me was invaluable. But more importantly than that, I cherished his friendship, as I think everybody else did. And I think it goes without saying that, for somebody who was a police officer, we don't usually think of him in these terms, but he was one of the kindest, most gentle souls you ever met, and just a dear, dear friend. And we lost an invaluable, tremendous public servant, and it's a terrible loss for our community. So I ask that you pray for his family, keep him in your thoughts and prayers, and to the young people out there watching, this is the type of man you want to grow up to be, type of man I would want my children to emulate. So, thank you.
All right, thank you, Mr. Feet. All right, we move into our board commission reports. Board of Zoning Appeals, Mr. McAbeer.
Thank you, Mr. President. With no variance request to be heard, the Board of Zoning Appeals will be canceled for tomorrow.
All right.
Also, Mr. President, I can speak on the Planning Commission also if you'd like.
Great.
With nothing for the agenda, that has also been canceled for tomorrow, 1 o'clock.
All right. Thank you. Airport Commission, Ms. Alonso.
Thank you, Mr. President. The Airport Commission will be meeting tomorrow evening, 6 p.m. at the Harry Cleaver Airport Meeting Room.
All right. Thank you. Park Board, Mr. Sears.
Thank you, Mr. President. No report.
All right. All right, Health Board, Mr. Similink.
Yeah, I want to speak for a couple minutes.
Sure.
I talked to the mayor, and I asked him, or I suggested to him, that our next meeting on May 24th, that he invite Vicki Iono, who's our health commissioner, as well as Nicole Bosch, who's been selected. She's our current director of nursing, and she's been selected to be the next health commissioner when Vicki retires 1st of June. So I thought it was good that he brought them. They're wrapping up, and they're presenting at their meeting Wednesday, their annual report for 2024 for last year. And you may have some comments on that. We're working on budget. Everybody has questions about what are we doing at the health park. And so they're gonna do a quick presentation on that. And while I was at it, I asked, because I'm still new, I'm like, Brian, you know, I got 1 year on you, you know, with these guys. So I said I wanted to go through this report with them, and I want to share with you a couple things that were uncovered. In 2024, their receipts were 867,000 and change. Out of that amount, 313,000 came from our general fund, which is a pretty good deal. 411,000 were in grants. So we had way over more in grants than we did in general fund, which I thought was pretty impressed with. 90% of the expenses go for salaries in the health department. So it gives rise to question that I heard mentioned, that our health department employees are making more than the county health department employees. I heard that, and so I explored that, and it's not true. In every category, I have it here, I'm not gonna put it in the record, but in every category, our people are actually not, which is great that they stay on. So that's good to know. Interesting to learn, the Ohio Revised Code says each city will form a self-district to protect and promote public health. And you can do that in different ways. You can have a city district like we do. You can combine with other cities and have a district. Or you can unite with the villages, and townships, and form what the rest of the county has done as a county thing. So I said, so what's Dover do? Because you're wondering, okay, what are we doing? Maybe we should do something different. Dover property owners, like others in the county, except in New Philly, pay a 1 mil levy for health, it goes to the health department. Dover, I called the Dover mayor and asked him, Dover paid $230,000 to the county health department. Dover has a seat on the county health board, and they're not very happy with the services that are provided to the city of Dover. We have an excellent reputation here. Our people, we had eight employees. They do a great job. They're bilingual, they do all kinds of stuff. Dover schools send all of their kids who need vaccinations and everything here to the Philly Health Department. A lot of people from all over the county come to the Philly Health Department, which makes you wonder, well, why are we taking care of all these people? Well, most of them are coming for vaccinations, and the vaccines are free to our health department, and we make $1 or so by administering them. But we also get a feeling the fact we've helped a lot of people. So our folks do it gladly, and they think it strengthens their mission to help people. They're very dedicated. Here they are, they're making less money than the guys at the county. Everybody hates the county, but they like it here. They're not leaving, so that's good. When I was talking to the Dover mayor, and we were talking about the bad service that they're getting, even though they have somebody on the health board, I said, well, why don't you call Mayor Day? Because according to law, you could unite with the Philly Health Department. You could use the Philly Health Department, and actually it would save you some money, make us some money, and do a service for the residents of Dover. That was a step beyond where I'm supposed to go. That's up to these mayors to figure that stuff out. But everything I'm looking at says they would do better thrown in with us. So that was the impression I got after reviewing what our health department did in 2024. And Vicki and Nicole are going to come in next week, and then they can answer. I said, I don't want to do that because you people all have questions. I don't have any answers. I had my answers, and that's it. So anyway, I wanted to share that with you. Interesting. The health board is meeting Wednesday at noon in this building, or in this room, and I think that's all I have to share.
All right.
That ought to be enough.
Yeah, it's a good report. It's good to hear, Tom. I look forward to having Vicky and Nicole come into our next council meeting.
It's up to the mayor to make that happen, but I think he's going to.
Oh, yeah. All right, move into our council committee reports, finance. Mr.
Thank-
Rippeth.
Thank you, Mr. President. The Finance Committee met tonight, 6:46 in council chambers. We discussed Resolution 5 and Resolution 7, which we're taking action on tonight. We also discussed Ordinance 4, which we have decided to hold some further discussions about before acting on that. We adjourned at 7:16 PM. We will be scheduling a meeting middle of next week. I'm going to reach out to the committee members to where the auditor and I are ready to sit down and talk about the final appropriations.
So it's just basically going to be a finance committee meeting, correct?
Yes. At that time, it'll be Finance Committee, and hopefully we'll have a document we can bring to the next regularly scheduled council meeting that we could have discussed and pass.
All right. Any question from the finance committee? Not Public Works and Economic Development, Ms. Alonso.
Thank you, Mr. President. Public Works and Economic Development met this evening at 6:30. We had 4 resolutions, 2, 3, 4, and 5 to discuss. All 4 of them passed and were moved along to the agenda tonight. Yeah.
All right. Thank you, Ms. Alonso. Safety, Health, and Service, Mr. Simmelink.
My computer wasn't working well, I didn't get your message. So, we need to have a meeting prior to the next meeting to discuss this, what to do with an old fire truck. It shouldn't, I don't think it's gonna take very long, 15 minutes or whatever like that. It's Resolution 6-2025.
Okay,
If you'll schedule that, please.
I will schedule that for you.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
All right, thank you, Tom. Zone and annexation, Mr. Ramos.
Thank you, Mr. President. Just to update information, the McClave annexation, I'm waiting on the go-ahead from the code administrator.
All right. Every time frame you think on that, or?
I haven't heard anything.
Okay,
So as long as, when I hear something, I'll
okay,
schedule the meeting.
all right. Salary, Mr. Cranbill.
Thank you, Mr. President. No report.
Cemetery, Mr. Sears.
Thank you, Mr. President. No report, but I can confirm the board will be meeting Thursday, March 13th, here in council chambers at 8 a.m.
All right. And last, contact and special, Mr. Walker.
Thank you, Mr. President. No report this evening.
All right. All right, now, the floor is open for visitors' comments. Anyone wishing to address the council should rise. State your name and address and address all comments to the chair. You will have 5 minutes. Carry
Thank you, Mr. President. I appreciate the time.
State your name and address again, would you, Carrie?
Pardon?
Your name and
Oh,
address.
my name, Kerry Metzger, address is 120 Precy Parkway, Southeast New Philadelphia, Ohio.
Thank you.
I'm here tonight as a chair of the Empower Tusk Coalition, and I'm representing the Empower Tusk Coalition in my remarks. First of all, I want to apologize to council. Sometimes I get fired up. If people know me, I have a great passion for protecting our youth in regards to drug use and misuse, and sometimes that passion is overwhelming for me. And so I apologize to council. I did not mean to get overly angry at the council, but I do have a passion to protect our youth in our community. I also want to thank the councilman for determining that you're going to just have a first reading. That was a huge issue that Empower Tusk Coalition had, that we feel that it's appropriate that the community, the public, has the opportunity to voice their opinions on this major policy change, which we consider a very major policy change. As you all know, as I talked about earlier, a little over 4 months ago, this council passed a resolution creating the DORA. And in discussions leading up to its passage, it was stated by some members of this council that support for this initiative was based on holding the DORA during special events only, and then review after a year. It came as a surprise to the coalition that all of a sudden, within 3 days, we became aware of the fact that this was originally going to be passed as an emergency ordinance. So I appreciate, again, I want to extend our thanks to council for determining that we'll just have a first reading and we'll have 2 additional hearings before any action is taken, which will give us time to provide information and data that we think could make the DORA a much better program than what it currently is. I also want to thank Councilman Similek, because what you said is exactly the way we had interpreted it. It's my understanding that the DORA has been activated only 2 or 3 times since its enactment. And this is during times, this is during the winter, during times when you don't have a lot of people coming to a festival and the like. Is that really sufficient time to review the consequences of having a DORA in place to determine if changes need to be made? The coalition thinks not. Wouldn't it make more sense to go through a busy season, i.e. such as the summer, to determine if the DORA is working as it intended to before making such a drastic change in the hours? So we appreciate Councilman Similek's comments on that, because it's exactly what the coalition felt. There are some other things that I do want to bring up as far as questions that I think you need to think about as you move forward with any decision on this major policy change. First of all, what data has been collected that demonstrates the need for such a change? So that's one question. Second question, has the council collected or analyzed any data on economic growth associated with the 2 to 3 DORA events which have been held? Second question. The third question, what is the council doing to ensure that the DORA is not unintentionally sending the message that alcohol consumption is risk-free or socially acceptable for young people? Third, what is the council doing to implement effective harm prevention, reduction, and risk factor strategies? And last, are there really sufficient guardrails to protect the youth of our community? And guardrails being, as an example, server training. Has server training been done for the DORA? That's a question I'm asking. That's something you need to think about, a guardrail. Another guardrail is what language is on your signs? What language is on your cups? That's another guardrail that can be put up to protect the youth. A third thing is, and we've done this as a coalition, doing environmental scans, where we go in and see whether the servers are actually serving youth or they're not. And we do that quite frequently, at least once a year when we deal with tobacco and vaping. And thank you. I'm ending right now. But I do appreciate the fact that you've given me some time to do that. But those are questions I hope that you think through as you come to some decision on extending these hours. Again, thank you so much, Mr. President. I appreciate that.
Yeah, our next meeting is gonna be March the 24th.
I got her down.
All right, thank you. Anyone else wishing to address the council? All right, hearing none, council comments. Any councilmen have comments this evening? Yes, Mrs. Ramos.
Thank you, Mr. President. Regarding the DORA, that was just passed last September, and we heard extensive viewpoints from pros and cons. Most of the pros were the liquor establishment owners. And a lot of cons from a lot of people in the community that were against this. So originally, it was sold to council as a special events only. And we've only had 2 events as I understand, 2 permitted events. And it was a way to raise tax revenue for the city. As for the raise in tax revenue, I actually talked to the tax income administrator, and she does not have a mechanism to verify that there was additional income tax for this. The mayor had said that downtown business establishments will have to hire extra people. Well, of course, with only 2 events, you can't tell. So there is no verifiable data to support an increase in tax revenue to the city. And Chris had shared earlier that there would be an accounting of the Dora Cups reported sold, and how many have been sold, and how much money's been donated, and what the VFW has actually helped with. So that was one of the 2 prongs, to help the VFW and also to raise money from the city, which we don't know any of those answers. So looking at the original DORA application, it says the DORA will be in effect during special events. This was submitted to the state, and organizers of special events must submit an application to the DORA board to be included. Then it said the DORA board can amend any of those special event hours. So it was sold to us and the community as special events only. And here, we're opening wide the doors. I have great concerns about that, especially we talked about the hours earlier, in that we are not respecting the kids from the high school that have open lunch periods by the start hours. We're not respecting the people that wish to go to the downtown and not be exposed to open carry alcohol, even though it's in special cups, plastic cups. There's no time to respect those residents and wanting to come down to the downtown, myself included. The ADORA, again, changes community values and our culture about open carry alcohol. And let's just face it, that's what it is, even if it's in plastic cup. And all of us parents and teachers know that children catch more than they're taught. And that can be a bitter harvest, actually. So another rule of life is increasing accessibility always increases use. We know that in the drugs. Alcohol is also a drug, but it's a socially acceptable drug. Another point is that we should keep in mind with expanding all these hours, we haven't had a test time yet. We don't know, like Mr. Sumlick said, if this is successful or not. We have no idea. It's not been enacted during a busy season, so we have no idea. And the other thing is ADORA, the open carry alcohol, would remove the controls that parents have in exposing their children to alcohol by allowing it in a public space, the public space. All of us know as parents what your thoughts are on that or not. If you choose to take your child into a bar, that's fine, that's your choice. That may not be my choice to walk around downtown and have basically an open bar. That's what I'm saying. I'm not talking about incidents, okay? That's not my concern. My concern is the message to the youth and those that struggle with recovery, respecting all of our citizens and their exposure to open carry alcohol, and changing our community culture, values, and norms for a buck, which I'm always for people over profit. Sorry, but that's the way I feel about things. And, well, no, I'm not sorry. That's how I feel about it. So, I'm totally against this, even though we're going to have 3 readings. I'm still against expanding the hours without a test period to events. Tells us nothing. We have no verifiable data to act on, and we know nothing. Thank you.
All right, thank you, Mr. Ramos.
Let me,
Mr. Similic.
I'm somewhat supportive of Mrs. Ramos. I voted for Dora. I was under the conclusion, though, that we were gonna try this thing out. I hope it works well. So far, after 2 shots, it seems to, I don't know if it has any results. There are no results yet, but there's nothing negative. I think, by the time we get to the summer, I hope we find that this is gonna be a positive thing, and that we're gonna wanna maybe expand it. One other thing I noted, somebody's drawing up signs, which I thought was a little presumptuous. We just had a discussion with the health board the other day about, we need to get some more signs up directing people to where the health board is down in the basement here. But we'll come up with some ideas, but they have to fall in line with the signs. The sign formats designed, approved by the city.
Yes.
City has approved signs. You can't just go out and hire somebody, make a sign and put it on the post, I would say slow down a little bit on that. Slow down a little bit on everything. Thank you.
Right, any other?
Just to
Mr.
clarify
Cranville, yes.
Yeah, I can answer that about the signs. if
Pardon
you'd
me?
like. I can answer that about the signs. I think Dee had sent me 3 different, samples, and I just sent it, or I had Ray send it to one of his sign guys, and they just mocked something up. Didn't cost us anything.
I know, we got something in email and all that.
Yeah, but I just so you know, we didn't make any or anything like that.
No, I'd say,
That was just a call to
I
somebody that
don't know how
said,
that fits in with what the city, and actually, we were talking about, well, we're going to make that clear with the health department too, what they should do with their signage and
yeah,
so forth. All should come together.
yeah. Well, like I say, there was nothing out of pocket, sent to a sign, just
No.
like if I had sent it to Chris over Lightning Signs. He just mocked something up. Like I say, as a matter of fact, the times were off.
Yeah,
Yeah, so it was just something that, hey, mock this up for us so I can show it to tonight.
appreciate the effort, I said, just,
All right, Mr. Cranville.
In case anybody hasn't realized it, I'm for Dora and Cheryl's against it. So I won't be saying anything more on Dora. I'm gonna be for it, and I'm gonna vote for it on the 3rd reading, and that's all I'm gonna say. So no one needs to reach out to me or talk to me. I am a supporter of Dora, I'm a supporter of the impact group, and I support the Dora board's decision. Thank you.
All right. All right, we'll move into our legislative agenda.
Ordinance number 1, 2025, an ordinance to repeal codified ordinances, Chapter 1339, wind energy facilities, and Chapter 1333, downtown design standards, and declaring an emergency, 3rd reading.
Is there any action be taken on this ordinance tonight? 3rd reading? Yes, Mr.
I
Alonso.
move to pass ordinance 1, 2025.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Okay, thank you, Ms. Ramos. In discussion by community, administration, roll call.
Mr. Lonzer.
Yes.
Mrs. Ramos.
Yes.
Mr. Kreinbell.
Yes.
Mr. Ribbit.
Yes.
Mr. Sears.
Yes.
Mr. Simmelink.
yes.
Mr. Walker.
Yes.
Ordinance 1, 2025 is passed.
Ordinance number 2, 2025, an ordinance by the council of the city of New Philadelphia, Ohio, to amend chapter 1309 building permit fees of the New Philadelphia codified ordinances and declaring an emergency, 3rd reading.
Is there any action taken on this ordinance tonight?
Yeah, Mr. President, I'll
Yeah,
make a
please.
motion to pass that ordinance this evening.
Yes, 2, 2020. Do I have a second? All right, Mr. Ramos, thank you. In discussion by community, administration, council, roll call.
Mr. Walker.
Yes.
Mrs. Ramos.
Yes.
Mr. Kreinbell.
Yes.
Mr. Lonzer.
Yes.
Mr. Ribbit.
Yes.
Mr. Sears.
Yes.
Mr. Simmelink.
Yes.
All right, ordinance 2, 2025 is passed.
Ordinance number 5, 2025, an ordinance to allocate funds collected under the City of New Philadelphia income tax ordinance for the 2025 fiscal year and declaring an emergency, first reading.
Is there any action to be taken by council on this ordinance tonight? I read hearing none to be held for our next regularly scheduled council meeting.
Resolution number 19, 2024, a resolution by the council of the city of New Philadelphia, Ohio, to commend the women's Kent State Tuscarawas volleyball team on their achievements, including the first USCAA Division II National Championship in school history. Third reading.
Is there any action taken on this resolution tonight? Mrs. Ramos,
I move that we pass Resolution 19, 2024.
do I have a second? Mr. Walker, thank you. Any discussion by the community, administration, council, roll call?
Mrs. Ramos.
Yes.
Mr. Walker.
Yes.
Mr. Kreinbell.
Yes.
Mr. Lanzer.
Yes.
Mr. Rippett.
Yes.
Mr. Sears.
Yes.
Mr. Simmelink.
Yes.
All right, resolution 19, 2024 has passed.
Resolution number 2, 2025, a resolution by the council of the city of New Philadelphia, Tuscarawas County, Ohio, authorizing and directing the mayor to submit a grant application with the Ohio Department of Natural Resources through the Ohio Recreational Trail Program for the assistance for public recreation purposes Southside Park. And once the grant offer is received, further authorizing the mayor to execute the grant contract and all related documents, and authorizing the city of New Philadelphia to accept any grant money awarded to the village of Tuscarawas and declaring an emergency. First reading.
Is there any action taken on this resolution tonight? Yes, Ms. Alonso?
Yes, Mr. President, I ask that we suspend the rules on Resolution 2, 2025.
Do I have a second? All right, Mr. Ripper, thank you. In discussion by administration, council, roll call.
Mr. Lanzer.
Yes.
Mr. Rippett.
Yes.
Mr. Kreinbell.
Yes.
Mrs. Ramos.
Yes.
Mr. Sears.
Yes.
Mr. Simmelink.
Yes.
Mr. Walker.
Yes.
All right, rules have been suspended. Mr. Lanzer,
Yes, Mr. President, I ask that we pass Resolution 2, 2025.
do I have a second? Mr. Ripper, thank you. In discussion by the community, administration, council, roll call.
Mr. Lanzer.
Yes.
Mr. Rippett.
Yes.
Mr. Kreinbell.
Yes.
Mrs. Ramos.
Yes.
Mr. Sears.
Yes.
Mr. Simmelink.
Yes.
Mr. Walker.
Yes.
All right, resolution 2, 2025 has passed.
Resolution number 3, 2025, a resolution by the council of the city of New Philadelphia, Tuscarawas County, Ohio, authorizing and directing the mayor to submit a grant application with the Ohio Department of Natural Resources through the Ohio Recreational Trail Program for assistance for public recreation purposes Waterworks Trail, Ohio Erie. And once the grant offer is received, further authorizing the mayor to execute the grant contract and all related documents, and authorizing the city of New Philadelphia to accept any grant money awarded to the village of Tuscarawas and declaring an emergency. First reading.
Is there any action taken on this resolution tonight? Mr. Lanzer,
Yes, Mr. President, I ask that we suspend the rules on Resolution 3, 2025.
do I have a second? Yes, Mr. Sears, thank you. All right, any discussion by administration, council, roll call.
Mr. Lanzer.
Yes.
Mr. Sears.
Yes.
Mr. Kreinbell.
Yes.
Mrs. Ramos.
No.
Mr. Rippett.
Yes.
Mr. Simmelink.
Yes.
Mr. Walker.
Yes.
All right, rules have been suspended. Mr. Lanzer,
Yes, Mr. President, I ask that we pass Resolution 3, 2025.
do I have a second?
I'll second.
All right, thank you, Mr. Walker. All right, in discussion by the community, administration, council, roll call.
Mr. Lanzer.
Yes.
Mr. Walker.
Yes.
Mr. Kreinbell.
Yes.
Mrs. Ramos.
We're on number 4, yes.
Yeah. Okay.
We're on
Mi-
3.
3.
3, no.
Mr. Rippett.
Yes.
Mr. Sears.
Yes.
Mr. Simmelink.
Yes.
All right,
Point of order, Mr. President.
yes, Mr.
It's noting the village of Tuscarawas in the resolution. Should that be New Philadelphia?
Probably. I can correct that. Or if you want to correct it on
I
your
can-
end,
I
then
can
just-
As
Yeah.
amended?
That'd be fine.
I'll correct
The
it.
last one said that too.
Yeah, I
I
was gonna
think
say,
so.
you gotta amend the other
Yeah,
one
it
too.
did.
Yeah.
You gotta amend 2 also.
Okay.
I just, yeah.
All right, so where were we at on the vote?
We finished the final.
All right, so resolution 3, 2025 has passed.
Resolution number 4, 2025, a resolution authorizing the mayor of the city of New Philadelphia to prepare and submit an application to participate in the Governor's Office of Appalachia, GOA program, and to execute contracts as required and declaring an emergency. First reading.
Is there any action to take on this resolution tonight? Mr. Alonso?
Yes, Mr. President, I ask that we suspend the rules on Resolution 4, 2025.
Do I have a second? Mr. Cranbill, thank you. In discussion by administration, council, roll call.
Mr. Lonzar.
Yes.
Mr. Kreinbell.
Yes.
Mrs. Ramos.
Yes.
Mr. Rippeth.
Yes.
Mr. Sears.
Yes.
Mr. Simmelink.
Yes.
Mr. Walker.
Yes.
All right, rules have been suspended. And entertain a motion, yes, Mr.
Yes, Mr.
Wilson.
President, I ask that we pass Resolution 4, 2025.
Do I have a second?
Awesome.
All right, thank you, Mr. Walker. In discussion by community, administration, council, roll call.
Mr. Lonzar.
Yes.
Mr. Walker.
Yes.
Mr. Kreinbell.
Yes.
Mrs. Ramos.
Yes.
Mr. Rippeth.
Yes.
Mr. Sears.
Yes.
Mr. Simmelink.
Yes.
All right, resolution 4, 2025 is passed.
Resolution number 5, 2025, a resolution by the council of the city of New Philadelphia to support State Issue 2 renewal of the State Capital Improvement Program on the May 6, 2025 statewide ballot and declaring an emergency. First reading.
Is there any action taken on this resolution tonight? All right, hearing none, we have for our next regularly scheduled council meeting.
Resolution number 7, 2025, a resolution by the council of the city of New Philadelphia, Tuscarawas County, Ohio, authorizing and directing the safety director to enter into a loan agreement with First Federal Community Bank to purchase a new ambulance and necessary equipment for the fire department as previously authorized by Resolution 11, 2024, and declaring an emergency. First reading.
Is there any action taken on this resolution tonight? Mr.
President,
Rippeth?
I would ask that we suspend the rules on Resolution 7 and pass it on first reading.
Do I have a second?
Can we just clarify now that the fire chief's here, the exact term you wanted to, we
Yes.
thought it was 7 years, we just wanted to clarify. Is that what we're voting on? You wanted a 7-year term? Just so that everybody knows since he's here.
Yes, that would be fine.
What is the lifespan of the breakdown of the cost if you bought just the box versus the chassis?
So, the whole unit is approximately $324,000. A chassis is approximately $65,000 to $70,000 right now. The problem that we have, or the challenges, I should say, we have, the box takes about 6 months to build and put on the chassis to complete it. The chassis take around 2 years to get. So if we re-chassis them, we can save approximately 40 to 50%. And it looks like about 8 years on a chassis is that's about it. Then we start having big dollar issues with the chassis. So we have a 2018, a 2020, this one will be a 2024. So that's kind of where we're at. And the one we're replacing, we have a spare that we pull in to service. We already have all the equipment to go inside, and we're not purchasing new equipment, we're just transferring that equipment. The spare that we're replacing is a 1998, and the one that's going to go into the spare, or as a reserve, is a 2009. So that's kind
And
of
how
where we're
long
at.
is the box good for?
So the box has a 30-year warranty on it, and then when you re-chassis it, that warranty is extended. It used to be 30 years, it's not quite 30 years. In my experience, I would suggest really re-chassising that one time and then looking at the cost difference between a new box and repairing or whatever on the box that you're replacing that truck.
Thank you, Chief. Any other questions?
Sure.
So what is up for a vote now is an ambulance ready to go?
It is
Boston
ready to
and
go. We
chassis.
went to, so remember, whenever we passed the resolution, the first resolution, we could not guarantee an interest rate because the lead time on the truck is 2 to 3 years. We're at the mercy of the manufacturer of the chassis. And their best guess was 2 to 3 years. That's what they told us. So we can't come up with a finance rate at that point because banks and lending institutions won't guarantee them for 2 to 3 years. So
So this one is ready to be picked up.
it is ready to be picked up.
Okay.
Last Monday, we went down and did the final inspection on it, and it's ready to go, waiting on the release of funds. Yes.
Just have one vote for suspension.
So the rules have been suspended.
No.
No,
just Mr.
I
Evans.
move to have them suspended.
Yeah.
We're waiting for a second.
Roll call.
Ready
Well,
for a second, he
We'll need a
said.
second.
Yeah, right.
Mr. Sears.
Okay.
Thank you.
All right. Mr. Rippeth?
Yes.
Mr. Sears?
Yes.
Mr. Kreinbell?
Yes.
Mr. Lanzer?
Yes.
Mrs. Ramos?
Yes.
Mr. Simmelink?
Yeah.
Mr. Walker?
Yes.
All right, rules have been suspended.
I would move
Mr.
that we pass Resolution 7, 2025.
Do I have a second? All right, thank you, Mr. Walker. In discussion by community, administration, council, roll call.
Mr. Rippeth?
Yes.
Mr. Walker?
Yes.
Mr. Kreinbell?
I have to recuse myself from the vote.
Mr. Lanzer?
Yes.
Mrs. Ramos?
Yes.
Mr. Sears?
Yes.
All right, resolution 7, 2025 is passed.
Mr. Simmelink?
Thank
You
you,
did ask
yes,
Mr. Simulake?
yes.
Oh, I'm sorry.
I'm a yes.
Mr. Simmelink? Don't know how I missed it. Resolution number 8, 2025, a resolution by the council of the city of New Philadelphia, Ohio, to amend resolution 10, 2024, to amend DORA hours of operation and declaring an emergency, first reading.
So any action be taken by council on this resolution tonight? Hearing none, it will be held for our next regularly scheduled council meeting.
And that concludes legislation for this evening, Mr.
All right,
President.
thank you, Ms. Courtwright. Do we have any unfinished old business? Any new business? Again, I'd ask that we'd all keep Mr. Popham and his family in your prayers in the coming days. You know, as his sudden passing, he's a long-term servant in New Philadelphia, and we're gonna miss him greatly, so. Motion for adjournment.
So moved, Mr. President.
All right, 8:43, thank you, everyone.
I thought you could.